Yeah.
Well, good evening, everyone. Uh, my name's David Lewis. A lot of you know me. Happy to be back at Mission Dharma again. And happy to be sitting with you this evening. So I can see people are still joining in, but it's 6:30, and I don't want to lose too much meditation time, since that's a large reason why we're here this evening. So while people are joining, I encourage those of you that are here to get comfortable. Get settled in comfortable seated position or lying down if you need to. If you're feeling really sleepy, even standing. Because the Buddha said that standing, lying down, seated, and walking meditations are all official meditation postures. So whatever works best for you. But what's important is to find a posture that allows you to be, find a position that allows you to be relaxed and yet alert. And that's a careful balance in meditation practice. Relaxed and yet alert. And sometimes that's kind of a fine balance in meditation. So please get comfortable. And just notice. Do a little weather check. What's going on in the moment? Because our theme this evening is abiding in the present moment. And that's right now. Perhaps allowing your eyes to gently close, turning your gaze inward, which allows oftentimes your other sense doors to open up. You may become more aware of hearing, for example. Not just my voice right now, but any other sounds going on in the background. In the building you're in, or perhaps even sounds coming from outside. The present moment is our touch point with reality. And the only way that we can truly experience reality, the only way we experience reality is through our six sense doors. Seeing, hearing, touch, smell, taste, and cognizing. So if you want to abide in the present, if you want to be truly present, tap into any one of those or all of them. That's the invitation for the sit this evening. The one thing we know about the sense door of seeing, it's the one we most often rely on. And it's also the sense door that most easily triggers mental activity. If you're looking around, the mind is processing things. So seeing is one sense door that's sometimes it's helpful to shut down, partly just to give us a break from looking around and through processing the world through vision and thinking. And partly to invite the other sense doors to open up. For example, can you taste anything right now? Maybe from some snack you had earlier on in the afternoon, or you just brushed your teeth. Or how about smell? Taste we most often talk about in terms of mindfulness of eating, but taste is activated all the time, as is our sense of smell. They're just not as strong, not as predominant as their other sense doors. The sense door of touch we experience in all different kinds of ways. Even with our eyes closed, we know we're in a body because we can feel the pressure of our body sitting in a chair or wherever you're seated. We can feel, perhaps, our feet on the floor, our hands touching wherever our hands are touching. And we can feel the breath coming and going. Because the breath is most certainly a part of the body. And it's an interesting exploration to ask, where do I feel the touch of the breath most predominantly? The tip of the nose, the area between the lip and the nose, the sinuses, the rise and fall of the belly, or perhaps our lungs expanding and contracting. Following the breath is a very popular, commonly used meditation object because it's so apparent. It's always there, always happening. So it's a reliable meditation object. It can always bring us back into the moment. But the breath, after all, is just another aspect of being in a body. And any part of the body can be just as reliable, a meditation object. Likewise, hearing, which we often think of as a distraction to meditation, is also a reliable meditation object. Sometimes a sound is just what you need to wake up, come back to the present moment. Sounds come and go of their own volition. We don't invite sounds, usually. They just happen. We notice the sound meets ear consciousness. And if we don't get attached to it, it passes away just as quickly as it arises. So any of these bodily functions can be reliable meditation objects because they all happen in the present moment, because the body happens in the present moment. No matter where the mind might wander off into the past or the future, the body's right here in the present. We can always come back to it. But mind consciousness can also be a meditation object. Because thoughts arise and pass away much in the same way as sounds arise and pass away. They come and go of their own volition. Just like sounds. They're only a problem if we get attached. So if we're opening our awareness to all of these different aspects of being human, we should include thoughts and emotions rising and passing without trying to make them go away or change or do something special. We don't have to control our experience in that way. The invitation is to simply notice when we get attached. And when we get attached, that's an opportunity to wake up and let go. Let go of that attachment. And let thoughts go in the same way that we allow sounds to go. In the same way we allow bodily sensations to go. So often it's useful to start with perhaps just one of those sense doors, perhaps the breath, perhaps sounds, perhaps bodily sensations if you're feeling something in your body. Start with one of those with a narrow focus to ground yourself in the present moment. And you can stay with that for your entire meditation if you'd like. But you may also choose at some point to open up your awareness to all of the sense doors, to all phenomena that you notice happening in your experience. And just let it be like a movie running through your experience. Your only job is to relax and Sit back and notice. So continue meditating in whatever way works best for you. Just trying to remain present. If you get lost, come back to the breath and start all over again. Grounding yourself in the present moment over and over again, as often as you need to. And I may pop in again at some point before meditation's over, but you can trust I'll ring a bell at the end. If the mind has wandered, or perhaps if you nod it off, not a problem. Simply notice that that's happened. It's an opportunity to wake up. Bring your attention back to the present moment. Ground yourself once again in the body, the breath. Start all over again. Towards the end of the sit this evening, I was, because I was ringing the bell, I had to kind of pay attention to time. But I was appreciating the fact that Mission Dharma still has a 45-minute sit. Some sanghas don't sit for 45 minutes, but that's the standard in Spirit Rock tradition. I once heard one of the founding teachers at Spirit Rock say that maybe an answer to a question on a retreat, that at his very first retreat, many, many, many years ago, someone asked the teacher a question about how often they should sit, how long they should sit for. And the answer they got was 45 minutes, twice a day. So that teacher took it to heart. His very first retreat, he'd never meditated before, and he, for the next 50 years, sat 45 minutes twice a day. And I heard that that same story, that same advice fairly early on, and haven't always abided by it. But one thing I say to people is that it often takes me 10 or 15 minutes just to settle down. So if you only sit for 10 or 15 minutes on your own at home, you might be missing out on the best part. You never give it a chance. So this isn't part of my talk, but it's just what came up for me at the end of the set. And I want to recommend it. Try sitting 45 minutes at least once a day at home, because it makes a difference. And I'm sure you noticed that at Sangha, because we do sit for 45 minutes at Mission Dharma, and you probably noticed the difference between that and perhaps sitting for a shorter amount of time at home. So that's just a little piece of advice. One of the things that I try to avoid, not always successfully, in giving Dharma talks, is making the Dharma seem inaccessible or remote or difficult. And it's a real challenge, as translating our direct experience into words conceptualizes and complicates it. Because that's the way experience works, is direct experience is simply being aware of breathing, simply being aware of sounds. And then we very quickly jump to conceptualizing that experience, making it something different, something less direct. We complicate it. We take something very simple and straightforward like breathing, and we turn it into something to overthink rather than simply experience. And so someone might start questioning whether they're breathing correctly or perceiving it in the right way, rather than simply breathing and knowing that we're breathing. Sometimes when we teach mindfulness of breathing on retreats, a few people suddenly find it difficult to breathe, simply because we've drawn attention to it and they've started thinking about it. So the practice is more about noticing what's happening rather than what we think is supposed to be happening. A lot of people get lost, especially in meditation, trying to control their experience or make something special happen. Dharma, the word Dharma, after all, is nature. That's one of its definitions. Dharma is nature. It's simply things as they are. That goes for our body. the nature of the mind, the nature of the universe and its laws. We can spend a lifetime studying biology, cosmology, physics, geology, or chemistry in an attempt to describe and explain nature, all of which can be very interesting and stimulating. But we can also just admire a flower or a butterfly and experience transcendence in the moment. The same thing is true for studying the Dharma. We can listen to talks and study the suttas for years, or we can simply pay attention to what's happening in the moment. You don't need to be a great scholar to understand the Dharma. You can be illiterate and understand the Dharma. It's sometimes said that listening to Dharma teachings without practicing is kind of like perusing a menu without actually eating anything. Dharma teachings can make it all seem complex and deep. But our direct experience allows us to experience that complexity from a different perspective. Study, reflection, and practice are all three wholesome activities. But I admit to a personal preference for practice. That's why I talk about it so much. It tends to be my theme. As did the medieval Japanese poet Izumi Shikibu, who wrote, "Although I try to hold the single thought of Buddha's teaching in my heart, I cannot help but hear the many crickets' voices calling as well." This charming poem reminds us that while studying the Dharma is all well and good, the wisdom of our direct experience is even richer. It brings to mind the famous Zen maxim that a teacher is just a finger pointing at the moon. And we can become transfixed by that pointing finger and completely miss out on the moon. We can become so fixated on the teacher, we miss the Dharma. It's a profound maxim. As a full moon in Zen iconography represents awakening, or satori. Speaking of which, there was a full moon just a few days ago. Did anyone notice? A few years ago, during a full moon, I had an insight that this Zen saying is not just a metaphor. I stepped out of my apartment to walk my dog before sunup one morning and witnessed the full moon hanging over Twin Peaks here in San Francisco. It looked like it was just kind of resting on top of Twin Peaks, which is the western little hill before the ocean. I didn't expect it. I didn't know it was a full moon, and the experience just stopped me in the middle of my mind. Literally. The mind just emptied in the presence of the magnificent luminescence of that sight, and I experienced a moment of emptiness, of waking up to the present moment. So if you want to wake up, pay more attention to the moon than the Dharma teacher. This reminds me of a story that Howie tells that you all have probably heard about John James Audubon, the naturalist and illustrator. Someone asked him what they should do if a bird that they spotted did not match his illustration, and he replied, "If you notice a discrepancy between the field guide and the bird, trust the bird." So that's what Howie was talking about. So the most helpful thing that a teacher can do is encourage you to trust your own direct experience. For me, the most fruitful part of our Sangha meetings is the silent sit and not the Dharma talk. Because no matter what happens in the sit, whether it's pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, it's a direct experience of the present moment for you. Once the teacher starts talking, the mind returns to conceptual mode, and we're one step removed from reality. It doesn't always have to work that way. We can, of course, spend the whole sit thinking about things. And we can also, with mindfulness, remain grounded in our body during the Dharma talk. So give it a try right now. Just close your eyes for just a moment. Let go of all these concepts and simply notice what's going on in your body right now. Sounds, bodily sensations, temperature, the movement of the breath, and the changing nature of all these phenomena. Now open your eyes, and if you can, well, open your eyes and notice how that is. That's just another sense door. But if you can, try to keep part of your attention on your body for the rest of this talk. You can still listen and reflect, but it's possible to direct a portion of your attention outward to the talk and keep a portion, perhaps 25%, focused on the body, wherever you're most aware of it. This is actually a really helpful practice to cultivate in daily life. You can use it when you're in stressful or overwhelming situations, or just getting lost in your head. Simply take a breath and know that you're breathing. Take a step and know that you're walking. Life is easier and more real, I find, when we are grounded in the present moment. And as I said in the instructions, what is real is anything that we directly experience through our six sense doors. The present moment is a safe refuge if you know how to access it. It's not a place, it's a capacity that we all have, but that so many people are not even aware of. It's such a great blessing to have Dharma practice. The body is always present, but if we are not aware of it, we will be led around by wandering and stressed out mind. The key to accessing our capacity to be present is, of course, mindfulness. When that full moon transfixed me, it was a moment of tathata. And tathata is a Pali word that is often translated as suchness. In a moment of suchness, we are experiencing the world just as it is, without that conceptual overlay. It's a moment of deep appreciation before words form to describe it. In fact, I shouldn't have claimed that the moon transfixed me, because the moon didn't do anything to me. That transcendent experience was my own reaction to the direct experience of seeing the moon. I have a favorite quote that comes from a novel by the young Vietnamese American novelist Ocean Vuong. And he recalls in this novel when a trio of tulips in an earthenware pot stopped me in the middle of my mind. Stopping in the middle of your mind is a feature of tathata, or waking up in the here and now. When the Buddha first left home to become a sadhu, he initially studied with a series of teachers, some of whom encouraged strict ascetic practices, such as refraining from eating and sleeping. And when the Buddha reached a point where he was nearly starving, he had a memory of a moment when he was a child. His father had taken him to some sort of agricultural ceremony and propped little Siddhartha up in the shade of a tree, up against a tree in the shade, while his father conducted the ceremony. And Siddhartha just sat there and took it all in. The sunny day, the clouds drifting across the sky, sights and scents of the ceremony. And he was at peace. I don't know how old he was, maybe 6. But he experienced samadhi. He didn't know that's what it was called then. His mind emptied of worries and cares, and he was simply mindful and receptive. He was present. So many years later, as he was practicing with his fellow ascetics, that memory transformed the future Buddha's practice and set him on a different path. He had an insight that childhood experience was the answer to the problem of suffering and freedom from suffering. He left his ascetic friends and developed his own practice, which he called the middle way. Neither indulgent nor ascetic. The middle way is about accepting things, including ourselves, just as they are. The Tibetan teacher, Yongey Mingyur Rinpoche, said that all we are looking for in life is right here in the present moment. Just take that in for a moment. All that we are looking for in life is right here in the present moment. We have the capacity to make anything a transcendent experience. From the glories of the natural world to the complex unfolding of the mind. Abiding in the present moment offers up a world of wondrous experiences, no matter how mundane our lives may seem. When you're truly mindful, everything is interesting. Walt Whitman said, "To me, every hour of the day and night is an unspeakable, perfect miracle." So here's how Ajahn Chah recommends being present with mental phenomena. He said, "Try to be mindful and let things take their natural course. Then your mind will become like a still, clear forest pool. You will see many wonderful and strange things come and go, but you will be still. Problems will arise and you will see through them immediately. This is the happiness of the Buddha." Even our problems become interesting when we're mindful. If we are not aversive to them, from a perspective of a big self that is having problems, if we can just recognize them as habitual mental patterns, then they simply become strange things or ordinary phenomena that come and go. As Ajahn Chah says, problems will arise and you will see through them immediately. So we can see a lot of familiar themes in this practice of abiding in the present moment. Mindfulness, receptivity, not self, impermanence, non-attachment, and letting go. The key to peace of mind is remaining grounded in reality, in the here and now, no matter what's going on. Marcel Proust said that the real voyage of discovery consists not in seeing new landscapes, but in having new eyes. Cultivating a mindfulness practice is like having new eyes. I'll say it again. When you're mindful, everything becomes interesting. When we let go of the past and the future, we can become intimate with the present moment. When we understand, this is a quote I want to share from Michelle McDonald, who said, "When we understand how precious each moment is, we can treat each breath, each moment as a newborn baby." We teach walking meditation on retreats, and some of you have probably had walking meditation instruction. But I practice a different sort of walking meditation on a daily basis at home that I'd like to recommend. And instead of walking back and forth on a prescribed path very slowly, like we teach on retreats usually, I just try to be mindful as I walk my dog around the neighborhood. This means that while I try to remain aware of how my body is moving through space, I also give some attention to what my mind is doing as I walk. When I first stumbled on this practice, which was really just being mindful, I noticed a fascinating phenomenon. When my mind is engaged in thinking as I'm walking down the street, I'm less aware of my body and my surroundings. But when my mind is still, the world suddenly becomes more colorful and vivid. In other words, I clearly saw that thinking was a kind of multitasking, which distracted me from being fully present with my other senses. It was kind of like being a horse with blinders that were opening and closing, depending on how mindful I was. It was fascinating to watch that dynamic happen. So imagine how far removed you are from reality at the present moment when you're walking down the street, thinking about things, and scrolling through your phone. No wonder people walk into telephone poles. Now, this may seem obvious to you, but I invite you to try it on your own. Notice how the natural world fades into the background or comes into focus depending on what you're doing with your attention, depending on how much thinking you're doing. Or, as the old aphorism goes, don't forget to smell the flowers. So peace is available in any moment, simply by abiding in the present moment. Walking down the street, washing the dishes, having coffee with a friend, sitting in a waiting room, are all enhanced by doing it mindfully. If you're bored, you're probably not paying attention. That's one definition of boredom from a Buddhist perspective, is not paying attention. Boredom is a red flag that your awareness is elsewhere, or that you're dissatisfied, wanting things to be other than they are. So all you need to do is pause, ground yourself once again in your body, in the here and now, and relax. If we practice stopping more often, it becomes a habit. The writer Michael Pollan calls it consciousness hygiene. I just learned that and I kind of like it. Consciousness hygiene. The Buddha said, I wouldn't invite you to do this if I didn't know that it was possible. So once again, just close your eyes just for a moment. I'm winding up. And listen to this instruction from Jack Kornfield, who invites us to rest just here in the reality of the present, steady and calm. This wave of experience received with loving awareness. Allow it to rise, to be known, and in due season to pass away. You rest in the timeless present. Rest in loving awareness. It is who you are. Awareness itself. The loving witness of all the waves of experience. All the dramas of human life and the human incarnation. You take your seat as the awakened one, as awareness itself, with love, compassion, and an immense freedom. So, thank you for your kind attention. I hope you were able to stay in your body a little bit during all those words. And I'm curious if you have any feedback or questions or reflections of your own. Stephen, please.
Can
Stephen.
you hear me?
Yep, hear you.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Um, I feel like you've gone through a lot of depression in your life. Is that true?
Oh, that's a kind of big depression, did you say?
Depression, because I'll just say it. I'm I'm going through a depression that I can't get rid of, and it dogs me. It keeps me from really concentrating, um, and I don't know how to get rid of it, and it's driving me crazy, and it's 24/7. It's just horrible. I mean, it's just horrible. And I really don't want it. And I don't know how to get rid of it. I don't know what to do. I do everything in the world to try to get rid of it, and I can't. Do you have any suggestions? Or I want to get rid of it.
Well, first of all, I'm so sorry to hear that, Stephen. I have had episodes of depression on and off during my life, and um, so I know what it feels like. Um, and I don't have an answer to the big question about how do you cure yourself from depression. That's depends on a lot of factors that we can't really go into tonight. Um, that are probably best addressed in therapy. But I can say one thing from a Dharma perspective that I found very helpful is that when I find myself experiencing something, an aversive feeling or something unpleasant, and my first reaction is to do everything in my power to get rid of it. Very often that just makes it worse. Than trying to get rid of it. So it's understandable that you would want it to go away, that you would want to be free of that. But maybe struggling to make it go away is is um, is something you can relax around a little bit, um, because that's just a practice that we do with so many other things in so many other experiences in um, from a Buddhist point of view is not it's when we find ourselves wanting anything in the world to be different than it is, whether it be world affairs or our own emotions or some family problem. Um, it's not always the best strategy. And in Buddhism, we tend to kind of dig into the problem, but that's something, when it comes to mental health issues, that's something that's best done probably with a therapist. Um, there's not an easy answer to that a Dharma teacher can give you in 5 minutes at the end of a talk. So I'm afraid I'm not able to offer that. But I can discourage you from just of striving too hard to make something different happen. Maybe relax around it. So that's the best in a few words that I can offer. That's kind of a big question.
I think that's good advice.
You know, I wish you
Thank you.
I wish you the best with that. Depression is hard,
It's very hard.
and anxiety is hard. A lot of people have a lot of stuff going on now, and um, I'm not a therapist, but I know there's a theory in therapy that sometimes says that it's that when we feel that way, the world's crazy and we're normal. So the world's a little crazy right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Anybody have a favorite strategy for staying present that I haven't touched on, maybe? Noemi, hi. Nice to see you.
Hi, David. Good seeing you.
Yeah.
I think it's dark in my room, but can you see me all right, or should I turn on a light?
No, you're okay. I can see you.
Okay. Um, I just did a month at Spirit Rock.
Good for you. Yay.
Um, I'm, I'm, I want to add about, we talk a lot about the individual awakening, which I think is very important. I'm wondering, how do the work make to work on collective awakening, if that's possible. Um, that does our how does our own work contribute to the collective dukkha of the world? Um, and boy, do we have a lot of dukkha. Um, because I sometimes feel like, although the Dharma is open to everybody, um, not everybody had the privilege to do a retreat for a month at Spirit Rock. So I'm wondering, how do we take the Dharma and deal with the dukkha in a way that would benefit people? I think I'm being convoluted, but I think you get my drift.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a big question, but my most fundamental answer to it, the way I think about it in my own life, is the most fundamental thing I can do is embody the Dharma as best I can in my own life and trust that that's going to have an impact on the people that I come in contact with in my daily life. And trust also, and this is a little bit harder to trust, that that may be having reverberations that I'm not even aware of.
Mhm.
Uh, it's it's I don't know why this image just popped into my head, but I don't drive anymore. I ride the bus now, and I really enjoy. I don't usually read or look at a screen when I'm riding the bus, and I enjoy noticing the small minority of other people that also aren't reading or aren't looking at screens on the bus, people that are just being present. And sometimes I have the good fortune of meeting their eye, and it's like it's sometimes this, I'm probably fantasizing this, it's like a private club. It's like, the present people. But, what else was I going to say about that? Um, well, sometimes I think that we're having an impact. The two or three people, those two or three of us that are sitting on the bus that aren't looking at a screen, that aren't distracting ourselves busily, that somehow that's an important role to play on the bus, that somebody needs to be present. Um, and I don't know if you know that story about Thich Nhat Hanh. Thich Nhat Hanh shares about the evacuation of the boat lift at the end of the Vietnam War, where he said if there's just one calm person, one present person in one of those boats that was evacuating Saigon, that boat had a greater chance of surviving. It didn't tip over. So it's these little things, I don't have a great grand answer for how we go out and change society. I'm not one of those people. But for me, it's these little things of just being present, of just being yourself, of just being kind and compassionate. And that's maybe the most profound impact that you can have on the world, and you can hope for the best. And the other thing that I think a lot of us are struggling with now, I talk to a lot of my friends about, is not liking the way the world is and wanting it to be other than it is dukkha.
Yeah.
That what we're adding is dukkha. That, when I want the world to be different than it is, when I get furious about the news in the morning, what's my contribution? It's dukkha.
Well, thank you, David.
You're welcome, Noemi. Thanks for speaking up.
Bye. Thank you.
Oh, we're out at the end of our time, aren't we, Mary? And I imagine there's announcements. I don't know. I just want to keep taking questions for a while. We want.
Well, let me just, and then who knows, maybe there's time for one more. So I just want to let folks know that we are going to be having a half-day retreat with Howie, and it is going to be both in person and on Zoom. So everyone can participate. But we'd love to see you in person if you're here in the Bay Area. It's called Sitting in the Middle of It. It is Saturday, April 18th from 9 to 1. And again, here in San Francisco, it's the San Francisco Dharma Collective, and otherwise it is on Zoom. So registration is now open. And then also just a reminder that we are here in this container of generosity and kindness and compassion. And David's part is offering the teachings freely, heartfully, and our part is to help support so that we can continue coming together week by week. And so information is in the chat, and so thank you in advance for anything that you offer. Back to you, David.
Thank you, Mary. So, we only have a couple minutes, and I like to end on time. Just be respectful of people's time. But let's take those couple of minutes and offer the merit of our practice. Recognizing that in the same way that we want to be present, and we want to be peaceful, and we want to be compassionate in the world, that's what we wish for all beings. Everyone we come into contact with, but everyone we don't come into contact with as well. And so that's what we wish for all beings. May all beings be safe from danger and harm in times like these. May they be healthy in body and mind. May they live with peace and ease. May they be free of suffering. May it be so. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mission Dharma. Go forth in peace.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.